All right, welcome to another episode of the Anime Village podcast. I'm joined by two very special guests. Josh Bringle, he is the director of software and program games, and Greg Phillips, partner of Plow Games. They both work for Plow Games, and very excited to be working with them with the Anime Village. We have some exciting news coming down the line in this podcast as well, and then some great stuff, some questions coming their way. But first of all, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Doing
Good.
great.
That's
Wish it
awesome.
was a little warmer out, but yeah, it's coming. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. And you guys are located in Indiana, right?
Yeah. Indianapolis. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the weather's got to be what? It's like kind of like cold and warm at the same time, or
A lot of rain and yeah, 40s, but it's still kind of yucky weather, right? Kind of gray skies. I'm waiting for the blue skies and spring to get here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, Greg, maybe you can give us a background about Plow Games and how you guys got started and what exactly you guys do.
Yeah. We have two companies. We have Plow Digital, which does consumer products for lots of different companies, of course. Work with McAllen Scotch and Audi in the past, a lot of B2B clients. And then we have our passion play, which is Plow Games. And Josh and I really kind of front that up, and we have passions about doing development, and we have been become a Switch developer here lately and published a game on that, and work with some publishers on that game, and we are a PS5 developer and soon to be an Xbox developer too. So we're growing the Plow Games development. We have done card games in the past, we Kickstarter, board game development, mini games that cross over with our other company that are more marketing games for big companies that are RPGs are explaining a marketing technique or a message. So we've done a lot of games that are gamification of games. So, but really, we're talking about in this part is really 100% Plow Games, right? We're talking about developing content, entertainment, user involvement, passion things, storytelling, all the things that we're talking about within Plow Games. We've been around 13, almost 16 years now, 16 years as a company. And Josh and I really kind of spearheading the console development here in the last year and a year and a half, and definitely are really pursuing that and getting that close to getting published with one of our new titles we're working on now. So, but Anime Village, excited about it. We built a prototype little world. We've done some marketing images to get them into funding for their first phase, and Plow Games is there to help and grow that. And we can talk about some of the game ideas we're thinking about fostering for that multiplayer world that we call at least are coining now as the metaverse, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like, to make video games and to create video games and to do what you guys are doing, like how passionate, like where did the passion for video games start for you guys? Like it's not, you must be very passionate to actually want to get into it. And, where did you guys love of video games begin, Josh, if you want to start?
Sure. No, I probably loved them since I got my NES back when I was two.
Yeah.
Uh, I drew the characters all the time, and then eventually, they didn't make a lot of toys for those old RPGs, especially. So I
no.
ended up making my own set of paper action figures, like that were posable, and
That's cool.
vehicles, and all kinds of cool things with that. Kept doing art, drawing characters, and everything. And then in college, well, I wanted to, be a character artist. And so in college, I ended up taking a Flash course and
Yeah.
switched to programming. Um,
Yeah.
I just hadn't really programmed anything before, and then realized I could with that class. And so I just started learning it on my own time and just kept digging in, building little games here and there, and just kept building games till here I am.
Yeah, Josh is like a unicorn, right? The unicorn is a programmer that has art skills, right? You know what I mean? Because you have both. You have the right side and the left side, and he does. He really does. And that thought and insight for UI and design, where a typical 100% programmer would not have that skill set, right? So
That's awesome. And Greg, when did your passion for video games begin?
yeah, I've been like John said, I've been in consoles from the very first and moved through everything from arcades to you name it. And I had another game company that we did 15 game titles for at Walmart and Atari and all the big THQs in the past. So I really was there trying to grow the PC business for a company I own part of, and we did. We had a lot of games going out, and then the PC market kind of shrunk, and then Steam came in online, consoles took over more so. I mean, consoles have always been there, but PC games were really popular, and Steam kind of brought it back in the channel, and brought it back. And but at that time we were doing tons of titles, pitching new ideas and IP, and so I've always been around gaming, always been a big passion play with games. And and I've done my big LAN events and played games. Used to go to GDC and SIGGRAPH, and uh, was published in a couple of special effects books back in the day with 3D Studio. But I've always been a fan of games and love playing games with friends, and that interaction with people is what, it's like Josh was talking about multiplayer games, and either you're together in a room playing together with multiple controllers, or you're on an event and you're all talking to each other and playing together as a crew, and that's the best part of gaming. But it's nice to do the standalones too, right? You're going on your own, doing your own thing, and playing role-playing games and exploring worlds and just enjoying the art and the animation and the gameplay, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy how far games have come. Like, it used to be, I think, with consoles, like you couldn't play online with anyone. I remember I used to all my friends used to just bring like Xboxes over together and we'd all play like Gears
that's
of
what we used
War
to do.
together.
Yeah. Bring in a big Ethernet connector and hook up a LAN and pop them all in. Everybody has split screen or multiple screens. A lot of heat in that room because all that machines are running, right? But everyone's playing. But now everybody has giga fiber, right, and fast speeds and high-end video cards. And now you're really bringing another level up with the tech we have now. I think things like the servers are catching up. The frame rates and all that stuff is pretty amazing. But you're still downloading gigs of data on your computer to run off your GPU, right? There's still real-time gaming has always been discussed, and you guys know that, right? All the crazy technology that came out that didn't quite work, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's interesting how far gaming has come and where it has been. So I want to ask well, first too, is what was the first game that really got you guys hooked and like got you into the gaming world? And Josh, you could start with that if you'd like.
Well, Super Mario Brothers would definitely be that one.
Same for me.
But then Zelda, the original,
Yeah.
got a hold of that, played it to death. Zelda 2, Link to the Past, loved all those. I saw Final Fantasy 4, which they called 2 back then on the Super, at a friend's house and fell in love with those. Got Secret of Mana and just loved those Squaresoft RPGs, and played their stuff when they moved to PlayStation. Kept up with the N64 and just kept going. Yeah, but no, Super Mario Brothers was probably the game that did it.
Yeah.
So yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for you guys, how does when you get into developing and creating games, how does one, go about the process of creating a story for a game and an original idea that kind of maybe you borrow some ideas from like a Zelda or something? Like, how do you come up with your own original idea?
Yeah, you have to be careful because you want to be too much like the game you're really a fanboy of, right? You have to create your own game, and it's a genre people are familiar with, which is great. But like when Josh was working on our game, he says it's like this game and like that game, but different. And you have to, you have to weigh it, right? You have to think, well, people like games in this style, and that's true, right? You always try to find a game that has people like, right?
Yeah.
They like the gameplay, they like the feel, they like the look. It's weird on a game. It's a 16-bit game, and people expect a game to be a certain way, right? And I think like any game, you're trying to mimic things, and a lot of games mimic, storytelling games or RPGs or first-person shooters. And there is a genre that is number one. There's a genre that's number two. And there's a genre that maybe at the lower level, but people gravitate to the games they like and they are fans of, right? And you'll get critics in other games, right? You'll think, I don't like this game. It's too much like that game, but not enough, right? So I think Josh, even on this game we did for even like the Rusty Sword, that our game on Switch, it is a passion play. It's something that it's familiar, right, Josh? I would say it's familiar. We game tested crap out of it. We had a lot of people at Comic Cons and stuff, and they enjoyed it, but they had a memory of it, right? So
it's interesting. Even if you have an idea that pulls from other things, when you're working with people, artists and other people day to day, like they're going to add their own personal touches.
That's right.
Yeah. People building maps, people, designing monsters and
music,
environment, music pieces, everything. So everything at the end of the day gets a personal touch as well that does differentiate things.
Yeah, humor, does it have enough gameplay? Does it have enough mystique? Does it have, even like an anime game, it's stylized, it has a story. And in an Anime Village has a lot of things based on a manga, which is storytelling based on lands and people and characters and weapons and things you get involved in. That storytelling will grow beyond just a manga book is lots of art with small copy, right? It's always the visual with the small paragraph and or less. And to expand that into a story, you have to really think about that story and how you'll interact with characters and grow that environment in a game, I'm saying, right? So it is fun, but it's a lot of things to think about, right? And even like Josh is doing dungeons and levels, you have to think of the gameplay, what the user is going to enjoy doing even the final boss or the level to go up to the next world, you have to think, what is the battle? What am I going to do? What's my discussion tree with an NPC or something, or my dialogue? And how do I find the secrets of the game? And it all depends on the type of game. As you know, I mean, Jeffrey, you play a lot of different games. They somehow just no outcomes, and some are just fun to do what you do within the gameplay itself, right? So
right, absolutely. And I think so. You brought it up. So you guys are working with the Anime Village and what we have here, and help developing a game. When you received the manga, I mean, what sold you for the project of Adamanto and the idea to develop this into a game?
I mean, it's like anything. The characters have a lot of depth, right? But when you think about it, you look at it and read it like anything in that genre. You use your imagination of that frame of that art, right? Of what's happening, right? I mean, that's what it is. You read if you look at the copy, it fits in one page in a book like that, right? Or even half a page. Sometimes it depends on the book, and that level and that many page counts. Then really, it's the frames that draw you in, right? It's your imagination, what's going to happen, what the battle's like, right? And that's the cool part of it. And that part, the different lands, the different characters, and where they go. There's a lot going on, right? I mean, you've seen it. There's a lot going on within that X pages of content, right? That's in a PDF now, right? That you're really, it's your imagination at that point, correct? I mean, it really is at what you're imagining, right?
Right.
So.
Right, absolutely. And so when you take like that manga and make it into an RPG, how do you create the story, but also, make like the character like wander around and interact with other characters and play? Like, how do you develop the story into an RPG, into a game itself? Like, what's the idea behind it?
I mean, Josh, you can kind of give some insight on penalties. We're kind of doing it right now with the game we currently done. It's really about the planning, right, of the level, the depth of the level, and then what you're trying to convey. Because at the end of the manga, you're fighting something, you're defeating something, right? You're gonna have a boss. In the way you have minions, you're gonna have content, you have depth, you have storytelling that has to evolve, right? That makes that thought of writing the manga has to be expanded much further to build a dialogue, right? So, I mean, Josh, you can give some feedback on that too, on that in that development cycle of taking something that's very contained and has a lot of imagination, but you got to now expand onto it for gameplay, right? So,
typically, I like to get the core systems working first. Like, is the character fun to move? Does the collision feel nice just at a very basic level? Does you talk to an NPC, does that feel natural, like the way it behaves? And then once you have all those core systems, then start plugging content in to, does it, make a level tile set, stitch it together, make a map with it.
Right.
A very hands-on approach is what I'm saying. Like, it's not something I would look at, and try to plan everything up front. You'd want to, I always like to get that, personal touch with whoever's doing the work, and, not to say, oh, you got to do this, put it in there and, try out whatever you're building.
Mm-hmm. Especially up front. Then you get into art pipelines and music and effects and dialogue and what kind of art style is this game going to be visually? And if it's in multiplayer, what's the threshold? Does it need to be more low fidelity because it's going to have a lot of players in it from multiple servers? Those things you need to plan up front, because you might take a game and design it too heavy where the multi-player experience is terrible, right? So, and then if you're together, is it third person, first person? Are you, back from far away and making turn-based decisions as a group? And then all those things need to be discussed, right, up front to make sure we build the proper game, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting to like take, this story, like this manga Adamanto, and then kind of expand it out into a game and let multiplayer play, or someone just go in there and play the game. It's got to be interesting to be able to expand that story and make it come to life. I'm sure. And like, how do you like see like the RPG battle? Is it going to be, like you mentioned, is it going to be turn-based, or is it going to be like a free, like kind of like how the new, like a freelance like battle? Like, how do you guys see that being?
I don't know. I mean, Josh, I mean, it could go either way. I mean, right now I think there's like 2 characters within the manga, but if there's 4, then you have to add 2 new sub characters, right? That didn't exist in the manga. So if you have 4 players or 5 players in a world, what are they and why are they there? So the lore has to be conveyed, why they're there and why are they, how are they helping? Are they trying to get Medusa? They're trying to, I mean, what is going on, so that it does expand, right? I mean, if you want to do open player, multiplayer with more than one, you're playing as him, right? And the other guys are NPCs, but now you're playing with the group. So what are they like? Are they like your minions? Are they with you as your quest, right? So it's kind of interesting to think about that part of it at least. And Josh, I don't know if you have a feedback on that.
Well, I don't know that we have a system
Yeah.
set in stone yet.
No,
I've
there's
always
not.
been a huge fan of the classic turn-based stuff. Love that.
Mhm.
I like action RPGs as well.
Yep.
So honestly, I'll be curious to see where we end up. But
Yeah, is it 16-bit? Is it art driven? Is it more the Ready Player Me characters brought in as their avatar, and you run as your avatar and your skin? Then that takes away from the theme, because now I got a unicorn and a narwhal in a world that shouldn't be a narwhal and a unicorn. But I know, I mean, it's all about it's all about the theming, right? So if you do have your character, and if you bring it in, you'll be that character. That was the idea of the metaverse, right? You're gonna bring yourself and take it with you in the game. Now it might not fit the genre. It's like being in Modern Warfare and you're playing as an elephant, right? It really doesn't make sense. But I think if your character fits within the gameplay, but again, the genre is kind of weird, right? If you bring a character, now it kind of makes the game feel different, right? Because it hasn't been planned out that this character looks like this person, right? So that'd be interesting how we weigh that out, right? How you come in as your avatar, and then really kind of makes the game feel different because you're not the character that you should be, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because there are different avatars you can
Yeah.
play in the Anime Village metaverse and take it to a different,
Right.
genre of what of the 4 villages that they have. And it'd be interesting, you have like a guy that's like from the Undead Reckoning
Yeah,
manga, and
exactly.
then bringing him into the, to the
Well, it's
the
like Fortnite,
Adamanto
right? You could
world.
be as Deadpool, or you could be whoever, right? But you're
Yeah.
playing the game as the characters, and that might be the play. It might be, but again, when you have a theme or story, it kind of derails a little bit. It's like, what is this guy doing here? And here's Darth Vader. What's he doing here? It doesn't make sense. So that'd be interesting how we equalize that, right, in the gameplay with open avatars, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, it's a really cool idea, and it's gonna be super exciting. And you guys have worked on some great projects yourself. I mean, tell us about the Rusty Sword, obviously that's on the Nintendo Switch, of what you guys have coming out, like have been out. But tell us about that.
Yeah. Josh, you want to go walk through that? I mean, we're on HIO, we're on Steam Deck, and we're on the Switch, and then soon to be PS5. Yeah. Yeah.
well, it started as something a long time back now. We've been working on it a few years off and on between client projects, and it's a 2-player co-op, fully playable single player
Mhm.
island. It's a small island right now, and then there's one dungeon with multiple paths through it. You can use your bombs to find shortcuts and do different things with. We're working on an update right now,
Mhm.
so that'll be it's kind of a little bit of surprise. So I don't want to spoil too much, but it should be out in the near future and expand on it quite a bit. 2 players is fun. We've taken it to conventions. People really enjoy playing together. I've always loved Secret of Mana back in the day, and so that's what I really wanted to kind of, imitate with that. And came out on the Switch, did very, very well on that system in particular.
Yeah, we did a kind of a almost a reverse crowdsourcing, right? We decided, Josh, I said that we're going to take out a version of the game, and I think we did 8 languages, Josh. I think we did
7, yeah.
seven languages, and we launched it globally, and South Korea and in Europe and Japan on the Switch, and really wanted to build a fan base. Like, okay, we know this is an indie game, we know it's 99 cents, it has a value, right? It's like buying I guess a Snickers bar these days, but you know what I mean. So so we got it out there and built it on. Since I think it's over 20,000 downloads, and the goal is now we have several publishers interested in taking the full game, which is the full complete game, and publish it on the Switch and maybe other platforms also. So we're in that process now of getting a publisher on board to take it to the next level. So
who came up with the idea of this game? Like, was it you, Josh, or did you and Greg sit down together and like?
So I was actually working on a little tech demo at home, just a little, walk around a character and made the sprites and stuff like that. And then I showed it to Greg one day. He's like, "Let's make one of these at Plow." I'm like, all right.
Yeah. When we try to find people who have a passion, and Josh wanted to, and I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna get a dev kit," and he's like, "Nintendo dev kit. I want to make a game." And we're like, "We want to see this thing on cartridge." So we have these kind of like dreams of like, we want this game, and now it's on Switch. We're like, "Oh, this is freaking awesome! It's so awesome to see it out there, right?" And then we're looking at it fully published, and get it on cartridge, and those are the things that that drive us, right? We want those kind of fun things to happen. So I let Josh do his passion play, and he's done it. And he's done a great job, and it's really a cool game and people love it. And we want to see people play and walk away with a great experience and be happy and say that was fun, right? And that's why we do these passion plays at Plow is we try to get people that want to do things and give them the tools to do it. And that's what we did with Josh. And we're working with a team. We have a music guy out of Spain, which has done a great music track for our game. And we have other artists in our group that are really passionate about, developing art, and a couple of the people that love doing pixel art, which, it is a craft, isn't it, Josh? Pixel art is a craft. You got to find the right person to do the right pixel art. It's funny when you have, can you do pixel art? And it goes, oh yeah, I can do pixel art. And it comes out and it's just terrible, right? So it is interesting in a very genre driven game that, pixel art is a key driver, right? So
yeah. How do you go about creating the pixel art? Because I've like played around, I've done some stuff in like Photoshop and like traced some stuff and done it that way. But like, how do you go about like actually doing like the pixel art and getting the characters, the move, and what's the background on all that?
You want to talk about the sprites, Josh? Yeah.
So for the small size, we typically go in by hand and place pixel by pixel for something that looks right. There's some general conventions people follow, and just time and patience. And honestly, the biggest thing you need to have is just traditional art skills. Because if you don't have those, the pixel art will not really turn out well.
The palette too is important. The color depth is really
all
important.
That proportions, everything. If you come in with art skills just even traditionally that aren't super hot, you're going to struggle. And then for the bigger stuff, tracing is not a bad way to go. You'll get nice form, and then you'll definitely have to do a lot of stuff by hand to get it to look good and all that. But if you're drawing a large piece, I would say absolutely start with a trace of something you've already made with pencil or whatever else.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's so cool that like for you guys to like to make the pixel art. I mean, as well. But what's it like to see your games come to life and come to life on like watch the characters move and watch them go to and go to like a big platform like the Switch? What's it like? All what's that feeling like?
Oh, that's a lot of fun.
It's fun.
Like I've always wanted to have a game, on a console, especially a Nintendo one.
Yeah.
And so I was nervous as a cat when the eShop one is
reviews, all the
launch,
reviews, the feedback from Nintendo.
Is it going to go well? Even though I've tested it, beaten it to death, is something going to go wrong? And it went.
Well, you got reviews from Nintendo on controllers and stuff. I mean, it's a really neat, good process experience with Nintendo going through the QA and stuff, getting feedback, and you're going to port it to different languages and launch it in different stores, and it makes you smile. It's like giddy, right? You just see it, and you're on a controller, and you're playing on and I also have Steam Deck too. I played on Steam Deck. That's still cool, but it's not as cool as on the Switch, of course. But yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. Do you ever just like have friends over and you just like pop it on? You're like, hey, this is my game. I created.
Josh has a great story. He had this guy. One of his friends come over or something. And he goes, you guys did. But we'll go ahead and explain it, Josh. It was hilarious. Your friend saw the game and was like, what?
Yeah, I had a buddy over and he played it. He's like, man, this moves better than a lot of the stuff I've been playing lately. I'm like, all right. I wasn't prodding him for it, so that was kind of nice. Yeah.
And I'll show somebody the game. And I was like, oh, this is a really cool game. And then we find out we did it here. And it's like, what? So it is neat to see, people play it. And, and then you do alternatives to the game. You run around. Like one time I ran with my daughters just picking up rocks, throwing at each other. And that's all we did in the game was just throwing rocks to each other.
Now, I will say it is a short game, and all the multiple paths, kind of encourage replayability. But I've had several instances where parents have told me their kids really enjoyed the game because it wasn't overly story heavy when it got started. You start with a full life bar, and so you're not struggling to get through the game. Now, I've seen people die plenty of times on it as well, but it's something you can get in, pick up, and play, and be done. It's not a huge time, investment as it is right now. Now, with our update and stuff, we're planning more content, and there's, I think, a cool way we're handling that. But no, just I've heard from several people that it's a nice kind of first adventure type game for kids, and that wasn't something I was planning. It just ended up that way. Like when people told me that stuff, I'm like, that's really awesome.
And the YouTubers are giving good fit. They know we're an indie developer. They know that it's a small game, and it's a small game with the price, and it's really built a fan base. And they've been really supportive of having the Josh with feedback on reviews and so forth. So
yeah, found a couple surprise reviews that got a lot of views, and
Mhm.
that was really neat to see as well.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I think this is kind of a question too, as well, like for you, Josh, and for you, Greg, but like in a sense of when you build something like that and you get the feedback of parents saying like, this is my like kid's first game and they really enjoy it. Do you ever think about like, you could be doing the same, like how you got into Super Mario Brothers, like you're kind of maybe developing like a kid that could be, a kid who wants to get into programming and developing. Do you ever think that you might be their inspiration one day to, hey, I wanna make video games because I started playing Rusty Sword and I want to make a game like that?
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We actually got a handwritten letter from a kid one time,
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
and telling us how much they loved the game, and is actually had an email back and forth with his dad,
Mhm.
just to talk about it and everything.
Or even dressed up. Remember, he put a sword in his hand, dressed
Yeah.
up as a character. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we have a kid that was a junior in high school that we vetted. He came in and just started doing pixel art for us when he was in high school. He's great pixel artist. So he's still working with us. He's in college now, but he's also he's going to computer science, but he's a unicorn too. He has art skills and programming, but he does a lot of pixel art for us. But he was just a high school student, right? And we vetted what? I think we had 4 or 5 people submit pixel art. Remember, Josh? And this kid just knocks it out, and he knows, like Josh says, it's like he knows where pixels need to be to give it the pop and make it look correctly in a character or a world or a level. And he's doing a great job. But so there's kind of a mentor, right? He's like, I'm just this little kid, a shy kid in Brownsburg, Indiana, and I like pixel art. And we're like, hey, want to try some stuff? And he did, and he worked out well, and he still works with us today. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you guys are in the community. And do you have any other games coming out for the Switch, or is it Rusty Sword that's the one?
Well, there's Vanguard and Runic Island. Runic Island will be the full game. And like it'll probably be about 11, 12-month development cycle, I think, Josh, is what we're looking at for that game.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great. And then so also too, I want to ask, you guys mentioned you go to Comic-Cons, you mentioned like you have people test games out. Do you see that like ever happening with the Anime Village, with us like going with you to like test our metaverse with you guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of anime conventions, and most of the cons have a big sector of anime. As you know, it's very popular, right? So most of the Comic Cons and events like that are, I'd say half anime. Most of them are, and they come into the grouping. And we have Chicago, we have Kentucky, Louisville, and a lot in Indianapolis. We have Gen Con here, which is a big event, and we've had booths with those and tested. And like I said, the people play when you know it's a good game. It's when Josh and I look over on the couch. We have a couch set up like a little lounge, right? And you see people stay there and play until they're done. That's when you know you have a good game, right? Because if you see them like come up and play and then walk away, they either don't understand it, the gameplay wasn't good enough, or the story was just lacking and they leave. But in our sense, we have to boot them out because they keep coming back and playing again. So that's a great way to get game testing and buy-in from the audience. And it should always be that way when you're doing games. It should always be let the audience, because you're just too close to it, right? You want to see people, the user respond at whatever age it might be, and the dad and the son or daughter, whoever it might be playing the game. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's such a great idea too, to like kind of see the reaction. Do you ever get feedbacks from anyone? Like anyone tell you like,
oh yeah,
hey,
yeah. Josh will ask guys questions. What do you think? What do you think about that? You got some really super nerds and 16-bit, Zelda fans that really get into it, right, Josh? And really kind of start talking about the lore and what we should add to the game. So it's interesting, right, Josh? You get a lot of people, right?
No, I was browsing a lot of social media when the game came out and just gauging people's reactions and stuff.
That's awesome.
That was neat. Yeah.
That's great. So, and then for Anime Village, do you see it being more for the RPG? Do you see it being more story heavy? Do you see it being more action packed? Like, how do you see like the RPG playing out, or is it just kind of
It seems like they want to do more story because they have the stories they have, right? They want to bring those into different worlds, which they have. They will in the metaverse, have different lands, right? And they want that lore and that storytelling to continue. So I think it will be more of that. But there'll be multiple games here, right? This might be the first one they do for the fan base, but there'll be other games that are smaller in scale that still have I would say, themed anime like or manga like. So I think that'll come along, but I think this game will be a nice one to get people involved and not beat them over the head with it, right? Let them explore and have fun, which is part of discovery. And people read books like that, and they like the stories, right? And all the series on TV people follow, and there's a lot of great anime movies out there that people are huge fans of that would love to have that experience in a game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just not a linear storytelling. It's it's like a universal kind of like a round storytelling, like that you can, there's more to go and more you can do with it. But I think that's the great part about like video games and RPGs. It just takes you to like another world, and you get to play all these games, and you can always expand upon it, make new levels, part twos and stuff like just. So I think that's the best part about video games.
Yeah, if you plan for it and have a lot of DLC or integrated stuff that continues to bring you back, that's the bigger thing, right? You're either familiar with it or you have something like my daughters are playing Splatoon right now, and there's a whole news every week. There's new content, right? So it's always drawing your Animal Crossing, which saved a lot of kids in COVID, right? COVID madness, and they had a lot of new content. So it's something that draws you back and wants you to keep playing and that you're enjoying. Where other things might taper off, and you're waiting for the new version to be released, right? So.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, DLC is such an interesting aspect of games now. I remember playing like the Arkham Knight games, and then they added like the DLC, and I was like, I like the Red Hood, so I was like, I gotta get the Red Hood and like add that. But it's funny how much there is to games now with all the DLC and extra parts of games now.
Yeah. I like the new stuff added, or new story or new worlds, because you can keep playing, right? Well, a lot of big AAA games, you get what you get, and maybe they'll get a release in a year from now or 2 years, depending on how big the game is. But you finish the story and you're kind of done. Some do have alternate endings. Some are just beautiful games. You just want to go play and run around once because they're beautiful, right? They're just running around, and some are open ended, so you just run around and do what you want to, or change the ending, or change the character and decision tree, right? And play them again, right? So
right, absolutely. And I got a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here. I want to know what do you think about like what's going on here at Anime Village and all the plans that we have coming up, and what do you think of everything that we're doing so far, and obviously being a part of it and helping us build the Adamanto RPG? Like, what do you guys think?
I think the big thing is like Derek, Josh said, it's a lot of planning, right? Like multiplayer servers, and set the world and the grid and scale, and NPCs, and then avatars. We integrate many for like me. We did a partnership with them. We're a developer, right? We bring their avatars in. How there's a lot of thought and just planning up front for us to do when we get into the next raise of money, where now it's just kind of a prototype level. But now going forward, to really think all the things out, all the levels, all the depths, and the things a user will encounter, even through chat or the interaction within the play, is a lot, right? So we've looked and done some research. Josh has too, and we've made some decisions on tech, and now we're just waiting to kind of get everything kind of mapped out to make the best experience possible, right? Especially a multiplayer, lots of people in a world or multiple worlds, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And then my second question is, what are you playing now? Are you guys playing any games now, or anything that you've been playing?
Playing a lot of Mario Kart, because they're bringing the family back together with friends, and Ninja Turtle because it's multiplayer and as a group. That's always a blast. I played Modern Warfare with my brother and all his teams and his groups for a while, but kind of fell off on that. So it's kind of interesting, right? We're doing some new samurai games, which we're big fans of. We're playing a bunch of those on Steam Deck and on PC. But yeah, was from Fortnite for a little bit, and a bunch of the games. But yeah, it's interesting. You're trying to get your friends to play together. It's like, well, I'm not playing that now. I haven't updated that now. So it is kind of weird. You can jump on the lobby and play with other people, but like I think Josh will say the same thing. We're playing a lot of games in house, right, with people and friends, which is always fun because you're hanging out and drinking and doing your thing and making it happen, right? So yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. How about yourself, Josh?
Well, as a family, we've been playing a lot of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Kirby, yeah.
The original Return to Dreamland was probably my favorite Kirby game, so I was really excited to get a hold of this one. On my own, I just finished up the Xenosaga trilogy, which was for the first time, which was really cool. So
that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, this has been a great interview. Thank you guys so much for your time today. If anyone wants to look you guys up, how can they find you, or how can they reach out to you?
You can search on Rusty Sword, or you can search on plowgames.com, or plowgames.com is where everything's at. If you want to reach out to us, that'd be great. We're always looking for people, and always look for people who are passionate about games. And if you have ideas, give us a buzz and we can talk about it. That'd be cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you so much for, hopefully, making the Adamanto RPG come to life. I can't wait.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
Can't wait to see that. So appreciate you guys so much.